Hello students, welcome to e-learning with Divine Public School Navsari. I am Mitesh sir. I am going to start with the topic economics of 12th standard today. Our first chapter in economics is graphs in economics. Now graphs are very easy and you already known as you have done in your 8th and 9th and 10th standard, 11th standard. Last year also you have done graphs. So what graphs plays an important role in economic? What type of graphs are there? There is a diagram, graph, what are being represented in economics, all these things we are going to learn in this chapter. So for today the contents are, we are going to learn meaning of diagram, what is diagram, for what purpose diagrams are made and from where it is been made, who are the people who use this particular diagram, meaning of graph, what is graph, who makes the graph, how graphs are being made, all these details we are going to learn in this, followed by examples of data. There are different kinds of data which are being available and what are the datas and their examples we are going to learn. Importance of diagram and graph, and lastly some of the aspects to be considered while drawing a diagram or graph, or what are the things to be considered while drawing a diagram or graph. So all these 5 topics we are going to learn today. I hope this content is clear with you. Let's move to the first topic, meaning of diagram. First of all, before meaning, what is diagram? Diagram is a representation of observable data by the way of a picture. Now it means that here there are some data which are being observed, studied, analyzed, and that data are being converted into picture. Means it is represented in the form of a picture form, and that picture is called diagram. Diagram is drawn for a self-explanatory data, and a layperson do not require knowledge of statistics in order to draw or understand a diagram. Here it says that these diagrams are drawn for self-explanation, means that economics has given their theories. In that theories, they have taken random figures, random numbers, and represented the data, observed data, and that is been converted into a graph, like we have studied in 11th standard demand curve. So in demand curve, you know the law of demand and how it works and everything. So that table you can make by your own also, only to show the concept of law of demand. So like that, for self-explanatory theories, you have, there is a table is been there. And layperson means those who are not familiar with the topic or subject, they can also make this particular type of diagram, or they can also learn or understand by looking at this particular type of diagram. A diagram is drawn for a data which is presented in discrete frequency distribution. Now, what is discrete? Discrete means discontinuous. As you are learning statistics in your 11th standard, you know very much about the frequency distribution. So in that, there is a discontinuous frequency distribution, and on the basis of that, these diagrams are being drawn. Now, who uses this particular diagram? Diagrams are being used by advertising companies to draw the attention of the general public regarding their sales, regarding their turnovers. All these things are being done. Even government also provides some of the informations us to the general public by showing the diagram, as well as some of the social organizations means some of the business which is non-profit organized NGOs we say, they also spread certain awareness with the help of diagram, showing the figures and facts, and they try to represent us what to do and what not to do. So this all advertising companies, government, and NGOs plays this, draw this diagram to represent their data. I hope you have been clear with the diagram. Let's move to the second topic, meaning of graph. What is graph? A graph is also a representation of observable data by the way of picture. If you see, the, when it is been asked what is diagram, it is the same, and what is graph, it is also same. But What is the difference then? The difference is graphs are drawn from the statistical information and they are not self-explanatory. This graph which are being made, it is made from the thorough perfect data which are being researched, and that research data, that statistical information which someone has surveyed or already analyzed and summarized, that data are being taken up, and on the basis of that data the graphs are being drawn. Whereas what happens in diagram, we can make random figures out of us and we make a table, and then after we convert into a picture, and that is called diagram. Whereas here perfect data is being taken from certain source, and after that data are represented or plotted on the paper. Now here these graphs are drawn with continuous frequency distribution. Means when you want to draw a graph, graphs are drawn with a continuous frequency. What is continuous? There is certain class interval, certain ranges are there in the frequency distribution. So that type of distribution is called as what? Continuous frequency distribution. And there only we can plot graph. Now thorough knowledges are been required to draw a graph. Is not easy, or it's not simply you can make your own data and directly draw. No, there are thorough knowledge has been required for statistics, and after that you have to make the formulas data ready, and after that with the help of graph you can make it understand to any person. Why? Diagrams can be drawn on a paper, whereas here graphs are drawn on a graph paper. And who uses this particular? This are being made by whom? Or this are being found out by whom? This are being founded by the researchers. This are being found out by the education institution or the educationists, or the we can say professionals, where layperson do not or cannot make this particular type of surveys or anything of it. So I hope meaning of graph is also been clear with you. Before going to the third topic, I just want to take a difference, short brief difference between a diagram and a graph, so that we can clear cut understand about it. If you have seen in diagram, what happened in diagram, it is also a representation of observed data, and with by the way of picture. Here also it is a representation of observed data by the way. It is a similarity. What is the difference? Difference is diagram is not drawn from statistical information, whereas graphs are drawn from what? Statistical information, a perfect data, a given data which is already analyzed, summarized, whereas diagrams are drawn from the random figures of your own figures. You can take and just plot a diagram, whereas graphs are drawn with the actual perfect data. Now in diagram, if you have seen, it is there, the datas are discrete frequency distribution, whereas here the datas are in continuous frequency distribution. Or we can, for simple sense, we can say diagrams are drawn from discontinuous frequency distribution and graphs are drawn from continuous frequency distribution. Now in drawing a diagram there is no statistics required, but to draw a graph you require statistics knowledge, and then only you can draw the observed data and you can plot into a graph. Now diagrams were used by whom? It was being used by the advertising company, the government companies, or the government sector use these diagrams. Also the NGOs, social awareness organizations are there, NGOs are there, they try to use this particular diagram for. Whereas here researchers, experts, professionals who are in the education systems, they try to use this particular graph to show the difference. Okay, I hope all these points are being clear with you. Let's move to the third topic, examples of data. As I told you, there are some types of data. Here we are going to talk only about two types of data. First, data with discrete, or we can say discontinuous frequency distribution. How? Let's take look on example. Here table 1.1 shows us there is two columns given up, price and demand in units. If you see in price column, you find 1, 2, 5, 7, 10. So here single digits are being taken up. Means I want to say that random digits or digits are being taken up, which shows the different at what price demands are being quantities are being demanded or units are being demanded. So here individual prices are being given up. Whereas coming to the second point, that is our data with continuous frequency distribution, our example says in table 1.2 here income class is given in one column and number of people is being given in the second column. Here there is a range. If you see, as I told you in graph, there are ranges, class intervals are there. So here if you see 10,000 to 20,000, how many income earners are there? There are 500 income earners. 20,000 to 30,000, there are 300 income earners are there. It may be all of them may be 20,000, all might not be 20,000. It is different figures, different persons will be getting their salary between 20,000 to 30,000. So this type of class interval thing or continuous range one thing is been coming under continuous frequency distribution. Whereas a single number at what price the quantity is demanded, it is coming under discontinuous frequency distribution. I hope you are clear with this type of data also. Let's move to the next topic. Importance of diagram and graph in economics. Now, what role does the diagram and graph play in economics? It says that to understand the difficult and complicated subject like economics can be made easily with the help of diagram and graphs. How? There are different concepts, different theories which are being given by different economists as we are studying. So in that, to understand their theories, there are diagrams and graphs which are been there. Especially we have studied the demand and supply in last year 11th standard. So that all chapter were been totally based on the graphs, diagrams. So that particular data are been there, and then after it has been converted into graph and diagram, and then after we made easy to understand for ourselves. If that data and diagrams were not there, we are not able to understand it properly. So that's why it becomes easy to understand, or it helps to understand the complicated subject very easily. Secondly, there are certain trends. What are trends? Trends means past years, continuous years of, for example, decade. 10 years is called as decade. So within 10 years, what are the changes came up? So various years together we can study together. By taking the data of all the last 10 years, we can know which year was the most profitable, which year was the less profitable, what happened in what year can be known to us. So economic parameters are being understood with the help of time series graph. Thirdly, what changes occurs in every year data. If you have the records, see, graphs and diagrams are made on the past recorded on the base thing. So here, when data are available of past years, that can be shown in one particular graph, and by plotting into one particular graph you can easily understand what happened in which year. So this makes us easy to understand. Then after you can make comparison. If you remember our 7th chapter Indian economy in economics 11th standard, you have seen that national income table was given up, and then after there was a table which was given for employment. How the employment in different sector has been changed from various years. So like that, different years data were being available for different sectors, different class range, and that can be understood by comparing the data. So to understand that particular data, it is helpful. Lastly, it saves the time of economist. Those person who are preparing this research, everything in their theories, they want to represent. This graphs make it easy so that another person who are learning this their concept, it can be understood very easily with the help of diagrams and graphs. Now they have taken example. If you see expansion and contraction of demand, we have already studied. Same thing, expansion and contraction of demand, supply curve, price elasticity of demand. This can be understood easily with the help of picture. Here picture means diagram, because random figures were taken up and that can be easily plotted into a picture, and that is nothing but a diagram. Whereas trends of short run and long run, if you remember, what is short run? Short run means you find that from year 1 to 3 years, if any forecast has been done, that is called as what? Short run. Whereas for long run, it is more than 5 years. When you forecast anything for 5 years, and that particular thing becomes a long run thing. So irregular fluctuations, what are the fluctuations going on? It is going in a regular form or it is going in irregular. Why it is irregular? Because sometimes it may be increased, sometimes it is decreasing. All these things, fluctuation which are going in agriculture sector, or we can say in any other sector, can be understood by the help of time series graph. So these are certain importance which help us to study economics by the way of diagrams and graphs. I hope you have been clear with these points also. Move to the next topic, that is aspects to be considered while drawing a diagram, or we can say graph. What are the things to be noted to analyze and make it simple to understand? What are the things to be kept to draw a graph or a diagram? First, it says that choice of type of diagram or graph and their presentation. The right type of diagram or graph must be chosen. We have to choose right type of diagram to draw this particular graph. By looking at the observed data, we have to understand what should be drawn. It is a discrete frequency, it is a continuous frequency. Which type of graph or diagram is been suited? Either a bar diagram, either a pie diagram, histogram, pictogram. Different types of diagrams are there or graphs are there. Time series graph can be utilized. So by the data or by the theory, we have to understand that which is the best suitable for this particular type of theory. Then only we can plot the diagram or graph, or then only we can conclude the theory very easily with the help of the specified or a correct chosen graph or diagram. Second, clarity. Now the diagram, or we can say the diagram or graph which are being plotted, must be neat and clean. It should be clear cut, so that different areas, different bars, we can easily conclude it. Different colors and shades we can also use for different types of data, so to show the ranges in continuous frequency distribution. Scales and measure, this is very important point, because many times I see students try to make mistake, like they are not recording scales. So scales are necessary. 1 centimeter on a graph is how many quantity demanded. 1 centimeter on x-axis, how many quantity demanded. 1 centimeter on y-axis, how many price, how many rupees are being calculated. So like this information, scales are to be written up, measure up, and it should be written on a graph. Fourthly, representation of axes. Now as we know, we have drawn so many graphs. There are two axes, x-axis and y-axis. So this axis are to be mentioned. They should be denoted. What x-axis, that is a horizontal line, is known as x-axis, and it demands, in demand curve we will see it is quantities demanded. If you same example, if you take y-axis, that is a vertical line, represents the price. So like that we have to mention what x-axis are showing, what y-axis are showing. Let's move to the fifth point, data table and source of data. Now we can say that diagrams and graphs must be accompanied by the data table. Means what diagrams and graphs we are drawing should match with the table, with the graph, with the theory, or else it is a continuous frequency data is being given and you are drawing a diagram. It should not happen. That's why the first point is very much important, that is you should choose a perfect diagram and graph. And then after this come to the fifth point, that is tables are there, and which source the table has been taken up. Either it has taken from the like for census, for using for knowing the data of population. Census reports are been there for every 10 years. So like that, sources of data from where you have taken this particular information and you are showing your presentation must be there. Lastly, methods of calculating the data. There are different statistical formulas you have studied in your 11th standard to draw the data, and after that you are plotting the graph. So you should know which method should be appropriate for drawing this type of graphs or diagram or observed data. So data should be simplified very easily and it should be understood. It should not be a complicated data. So for that, easy method should be there, and you have to mention the method in this particular type of diagram or graph. For this is the last topic for our today's lecture. I hope you all understood it very well. Let's just conclude, just recapitulate what are the points we have studied. First, it is diagram. What is a diagram? Diagram is a representation of observed data by the way of picture. Same is a graph, but there was a difference. We have studied the difference between, that is, diagrams are made for self-explanatory, where you can say graphs are made for non-self-explanatory. Layperson can make diagrams, but layperson cannot make graphs. Here statistical informations are not necessary to plot a graph, whereas statistical information is not necessary to plot a diagram, whereas statistical informations are necessary to plot a graph. Then after, advertising company, government and different NGOs uses this particular method of diagram to show their data and attract the people, whereas researchers, professionals, experts, they research, they survey, they analyze, they summarize, and lastly they conclude and make a data, and then after they plot into a graph. Then after, we have seen what is examples of data, that is what is discrete discontinuous frequency distribution and what is continuous frequency distribution. We have understood that. Then after, we have studied importance, why graphs and diagrams are necessary to understand the difficult subject, to understand the different theories, concept, what are the changes occurring during the period, during the different time period. We can compare the different datas, different year datas with different year. Like for example, we have seen in 7th chapter economics in 11th standard about the employment opportunities in different sectors. So all these things are to be known. Then after, we have seen the aspects. There are the 6 points. So if all these points are clear, I'd like to end this video. I hope you have been understood. You can refer this data for yourself and study well. Thank you.